Welcome everyone to the GSM Surprise Spotlight. This week I have Paul Parker with me. He's one of the salespeople over here at Fusz Ford. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you.
I kind of left one of the best for last because Paul and I have some history that we'll talk about shortly. But let's start it off. Born and bred St. Louis?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what the old school, what high school did you go to?
I graduated from Hazelwood East, Spartan.
Isn't Hazelwood East a really good football team?
Historically, yes. We've come across some rough times here lately, but historically, Hazelwood East is a powerhouse, household name.
I was gonna say
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my friends, he actually is he's a teacher, but I don't think it's for sports, but he's in Hazelwood East.
Yeah, BJ. Yeah, he's the head coach over at East now. So we're looking to get back to prominence here.
So let's talk about your childhood a little bit.
Yeah.
You grew up in what kind of area?
North County boy. I would say my roots are in Kenlock, but we moved out of there very, very early on to North County. Simple, both parents. Grew up, mom and dad. Shouts out to mom and dad.
Well, let's touch on that. So I have a little bit of a personal connection because actually Paul's dad is a pastor.
Yes.
And he married me and my wife.
Yes.
So we have a little bit. And I'm going to tell you a quick story about.
He's really proud of that, man. I'm
proud that he was.
In the fact that you guys have persevered and still going strong. He's really, really proud of you.
Well, and I'm going to touch on that part of the story. So I'm going to tell you something about Mr. Isaac Parker. He, no joke. So bear in mind, Paul had been working for me for a little while, and I'd met his parents a couple of times. Obviously, when Paul got married and stuff like that, I met his parents, and we always kind of clicked and had a good relationship. Well, when I decided I was going to get married, I said to Paul, "Do you think your dad would marry us?" And he was like, "I'm sure he will." Well, I thought it was going to be as simple as, okay, let's set it up. I think we met I met 3 or 4 times, and I'm not kidding, he tried to talk us out of it every single time. But it wasn't that he was trying to talk us out of it, it was legitimately saying, look, this is a serious thing, I'm not going to just marry you just to marry you. I want to believe that this is real and this is what you want to do. And it was one of the most, how do I put this, eye-opening experiences that I've ever had, when you get to spend some quality time with a very experienced man in life and a very deep individual. And he really got you, he's kind of the guy that really gets you thinking.
He really gets you thinking. He is a thinking man,
yeah,
for sure.
He's a very deep guy. So, shout out to Isaac and Mama Parker too.
That's right. Shouts out to moms.
I wish I had a video of this. At Paul's wedding, it was one of the funniest things ever.
Good time.
Yeah, that's a story for another time, but that was a phenomenal day. So, parents still together, correct?
Yeah.
And you got, how many siblings you got?
One brother, one older brother, 5 years between us. Isaac Jr. Shouts out to Big Bro. But yeah, just me and Big Bro, and it was that kind of dynamic. He was my everything growing up, as my big brother, he was my idol, and it still is, you know what I mean? But just having that dynamic of having to go everywhere with him and, really getting on his nerves.
What's the difference in age?
5 years.
5 years.
And so, tagging along with him, getting on his nerves as much as I could. The fights and growing up and just how that relationship develops and turns into, when you get older, all those moments kind of make you closer.
Yeah.
Love him to death. It was super close.
Let's talk about, so after high school, college, or anything like that?
Yeah, I did a year and a half college, went to Central Methodist University, right outside of Columbia in Fayette.
What was your major?
Music education. I got a scholarship, a vocal scholarship for, in high school, I won state every year in high school singing opera. So
we're going to touch on that. don't get too far ahead yet.
And so, music education was my major before, and I'm trying not to segue into why I left college, but and that was a really, really good experience as well. Just first experience of being away from home, kind of having to fend for yourself a bit and just learning yourself. You know, me personally, just learning myself as a man, responsibility and things like that. It's just a gradual progression of.
Was it pretty far from St. Louis?
No, it's like 2 hours. Columbus is like 2 hours away.
Did you stay there?
I did. Stay on campus. Yeah.
So, seeing as you already had a schedule on this one, let's talk about the music career.
It's bittersweet, man. I'll laugh and I want to cry at the same time.
Well, just so you know, Zach's gonna put I'm gonna send him a YouTube clip of one of Paul's songs.
I figured something like that was coming.
Slip that in there. So
I figured.
Check this one out.
I figured.
So let's talk about the music career, because you're a very traveled person. You've got to experience a lot of things that a lot of people may not have experienced.
Sure.
Especially in the music career. So you had a career in music.
I guess
you had a CD out. You had a career.
I guess you could call it a career.
You can still get it on Spotify, by the way.
This is true. This is true. And actually, this would be a shameless plug because I still get a check from Spotify.
Plug it.
Cuziano. Cuziano is the name. It's really good music in my opinion. So check it out.
In my opinion, because I'm singing.
if you get a moment, check it out.
I'll put a link in the description so you can just check it out. Well, we got to figure out the cut on that if you get links.
For sure. We'll work something out.
So let's talk about that. You obviously you kind of gave us a hint.
Yeah.
You left college to go pursue that career.
I'll try to put it in a capsule as much as possible without making it long-winded. But basically, my freshman year in college, he's actually a good friend of my brother, and just trying to, that was when. Trying to be independent was just a big thing. And so we were just trying to do something locally here with the independent label. And so a label was created. It was called No Sense Entertainment. And, being in college and, not supposed to come home, not telling my parents I'm driving back home to come to the studio and all that kind of stuff.
Driving and getting back.
And go right back to class the next morning or staying the night here and driving back just to barely make 8 a.m. class. Just at that time, I just thought I was gonna be the biggest R&B star in the world, And it was just a dream of mine. Everyone in my family, it's in my blood. Everyone sings.
But you toured, right?
Say again?
You toured.
I did. I had an album release party in London. Your neck of the woods there. And that was.
Let's talk about that. What kind of experience was that as an American growing up in St. Louis, going to the capital of the United Kingdom and releasing an album over there? What was that like?
It gives you an appreciation for the power of music, and at the end of the day, we're all just people, man.
Yeah.
And where you're from, the different vernaculars you have,
the reason I'm saying that is, obviously I come from a different country, so St. Louis really isn't a big name city in the United States when you live in Europe.
Yeah.
Like when I first moved here to St. Louis, no one really knew where St. Louis was.
Right.
They just all assumed that I was closer to a big city somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when you went to London, not many people knew where St. Louis was.
Well, it's Nelly. That's
honest.
And that is to be totally honest, as soon as you say it, and that kind of puts how big he was.
Connection
it is just being honest. And when I was in high school, I did a foreign exchange student in high school for 3 weeks overseas, and I went to. We actually had a thing called a home stay where I actually lived with the family for like 4 or 5 days over there.
Yeah,
and went to school with the kids. And you say you're from St. Louis, it's like immediately it's like, oh, Nelly, and it's like, and it put in perspective how big he was.
He was huge.
You know what I mean?
Really huge, yeah. And when I sold him a car at Plaza, I don't get starstruck very often. As you know, I've got friends that are high-profile people. He was one of the people that I was like, oh shit, I'm selling a car to Nelly. And it really took me back, because even at the time my managers were like, oh, look, you getting all, but I'm like, he's massive in Europe, like massive.
And during that time, I mean, it was no bigger entertainment figure. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it was that was about it. But other than that, it was a lot of questions, about growing up here and the differences.
How long did you stay in London for?
For the music, I was there for a week. I lived a week of the life. I mean, radio station, parent. Oh my God, it was an amazing feeling.
Any name clubs that you went to? Because there's some pretty famous clubs over there.
What was that called? No, it's been a while. It's been a while.
After that, do you ever go back?
No, I never went back after that, because when I came back, I would say shortly after, a few years after that, I met my ex-wife at that time, and so life kind of took a different turn, and that business is a pay to play.
And it's a cutthroat business
Yeah,
too.
and kind of business, and at the time, just not being in St. Louis and not having the kind of infrastructure that you would need here to just go to a club and shake a hand of someone that can change your life versus a lot of these other major cities.
Didn't you audition for American Idol at one time?
I auditioned for American Idol, I auditioned for The Voice, and my story wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I remember you saying, yeah.
And I'll put this out there because this isn't good. This isn't good. This was at Plaza.
Yeah, I remember. You were a porter.
I was a porter.
Because you went in your Plaza shirt.
You let me come in late to go to South County Mall to do the American Idol audition. And so
I remember it, wow.
We go to the audition. I believe I did a pretty good job. The judge told me I did a pretty good job. He started to ask me some personal questions, about my life, my parents, and things like that. And because, my parents have been married their whole life, and no dramatic story backdrop behind Paul, he told me I was good enough talent-wise, but my story wasn't good enough to get enough ratings. So that's
well, I know that's true because I have a friend back in the UK. If you're watching, Dean, you're doing well. He's actually still a professional singer. He actually sings on cruises.
Okay.
Well, he did the same. He went to like the British version. I think it was just called Pop Idol.
Sure.
And they told him exactly the same. And Dean's an extremely good singer.
Yeah.
But he just had no story.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. Is a lot of those people that they get through can't even sing. They just have a story.
Sure.
And they get so far, but they use them for.
And there are some that are very talented.
Yeah.
But they have a leg up.
Yeah.
Due
and he was the same. He went there, and he was pretty upset about this because he didn't even get the feedback you got. They just went next, and he was like,
well, as I'm performing, the judge gives me a thumbs up. Gives me a thumbs up. I walk off stage, and he gives me the interview. And so, tell me about your parents.
You should have just made it up.
Yeah, they're still married. My dad's a pastor. My mom's.
Welcome to the world we live in.
Right. Wow. But yeah, it was all great experiences,
So let's try and transition out of the music career a little bit. You said not necessarily the reason why you stopped doing music, but your ex-wife was kind of some of the reasons.
And she was, when I met her, she was a bit further on, I guess I would call it being an adult than I was, and I would like to consider myself a man's man, and it just wasn't comfortable for me to pursue a relationship with a young lady, and she just for lack
worried
of
about you being out.
Yeah, or just had the being taken care of versus taken care of. You know what I'm saying? And I just felt like I just wanted to step up to the plate and take care of her versus her, being a breadwinner.
So what was your first job when you came, I guess, down to earth?
FedEx. I worked at FedEx at the FedEx Smart Post in Earth City. I worked there for.
Was you in the factory or were you driving?
Yeah, I was in a warehouse. I was a lead in the load area.
Didn't you come to Plaza from FedEx?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So then you came to me at Plaza.
Yep. As a porter there, and at the time it was really just because the FedEx job was a part-time job, and so I just had to get a full-time job.
So I'm sure if I asked Paul who was the best porter he ever seen, I'm sure he'd say himself.
I mean,
Georgia's pretty good though.
Under my tutelage, you know.
So anyway, I'm going to explain the story of where this came from because this is a proud moment for me, just an FYI. So,
and I'll give you my perspective after you give yours.
So Paul was an exceptional porter, never had to worry about him doing his work. He was a very self-motivated person. And then one day Paul came up to me and said to me, I would like to move up. And actually where it came from, which I'll send you a picture of, I think I've got one, maybe. We actually did a Halloween, and Paul was a porter, but he dressed up as a car salesperson. And that's kind of where it started from there. You know, at the time, you know, I'm going to kind of get into a tough area of conversation, but my general manager, when I first brought it to his attention, he was like, I don't know about that. You know, he's a young black guy with a BMW store. Could that be a bit of a problem when it comes to, you know, personality matches and backgrounds and stuff like that? And I'm like, me coming from England, that doesn't affect my decision making. So I said, I think we really should give him a shot. And you turn into an exceptional salesperson. And actually, one of my proudest moments with Paul is I love when he gets with a customer that has a little bit of the demographic block, I would say, and he switches them and turns them into somebody who ends up loving him, and that's what he really does well. So let's hear your perspective on it a little bit.
It was the port. It was a money issue for me, and I guess we can tell the secret part about it now because I know we couldn't say anything back then. But I asked Jason. I told him that I was going to move to the detail department because it was just a bit more money to be made down in the detail department. And immediately, it was no hesitation. He said no. He said, "What do I have to do to keep you up here on the sales side with us?" He said, "You're extremely valuable." And the other GMs and managers of the complex spoke highly of me, and he valued my part of the team. And so what he did was he said, if we hit a particular number a month, I'll give you a certain amount out of my own pocket. There's not payroll, it's anything. If we hit the number, I'll give you something out of my own pocket. And for me, that's what kind of, you know, our relationship kind of got solidified there. For him to go above him, and he got me a raise. Got me a $2 raise at the same time. And it was like next day. You know what I mean? Nothing long and drawn out. And at that moment, it kind of showed his character. Next to my father, and he rivals my dad as far as work ethic. I can't say
that makes me very proud.
Yeah, real. And I'm being honest. And it drives you crazy sometimes. You know what I mean? But he goes really, really hard, and I can appreciate that. And that's what made it easy for me to. Our relationship has grown tremendously from that moment.
And I was at his wedding, just to point that out.
Yep. And you know, because you see a side of person, you have a boss-employee relationship, but when the boss can step outside of that relationship and just be a human and be humane and have some empathy and some concern, it means a lot. It goes a really, really long way, and you know that's why you've been my brother since.
That's true, absolutely. So Paul actually really turned into a shining star at Plaza, and then myself, you, and Corey made a little bit of a decision in our lives, and you followed me to Travis for a short period, which really wasn't, for you out of the three of us, wasn't that big of a problem because you ended up going to GMT and really being pretty successful, right?
Yeah.
So
the dominoes kind of fell in a way that it didn't leave me high and dry by any stretch. And it being in that situation, having to go to that other store and learn a different kind of skill set than what I had to use at Plaza and out on Manchester, it kind of, in hindsight, it was very, very much needed for me to help my sales,
abilities and
things
skills,
like that for sure. Yeah.
And actually, I'll give credit where credit's due. That did it for me too. I was an area of the business that I never really knew deep down much about.
Sure.
And that year we spent there actually taught me a lot of things.
Yep.
And changed me
Yep.
specifically. And then, how long were you at GMT for? A couple of years, right?
Yeah, 4 years, something
Yeah.
like that.
So anyway, every month I'd probably call Paul and say, "You ready to make a jump yet?" And he'd be, "No, I'm happy here. It's close to my house." Blah blah blah. And then one day, out of the blue, I get a call and Paul's like, "Is the office still open?"
Yeah, and in this business, there is a stigma that comes with being a salesperson in this business, and the conflict of dealing with that stigma versus just having some integrity as I am my father's son, and just being able to sleep at night, treating people how I would want to be treated, no matter what the situation is, race, financial status, all of that is really irrelevant to how you treat someone. And, having to kind of struggle with some practices there that were, I would call a bit unethical maybe. It leaves a sour taste in your mouth at night, and I do have to sleep well knowing that I did the right thing. And so when there was kind of a crossroads there. And when it comes to integrity versus, getting over someone for a financial gain, I'll have to take the loss financially and just do the right thing. And it was a call, just a simple call. I'm walking out of here. Do I have a job, bro? And with of course, I was no hesitation. He said my desk was already ready, actually. Yeah. And so I'm here.
Yep, and things have been going pretty good. We had a little bit of a down spiral for a minute there, and then we got back up. But that's part and parcel of the like Paul said, part and parcel of the business. Sometimes you have those drops, and you got to reevaluate and get back to where you were. Let's talk about a little bit about your outside work. You have a little bit of a business that you do on the side, right?
Yeah. And just in trying to have some diversity in income, I do a little real estate on the side, flip houses. Just invested in a box truck as well. So got a few things going. Just trying to.
And for me personally, that's kind of why I kind of left Paul to one of the last salespeople, was because, I get a lot of stick sometimes because Paul and I have a very different relationship outside work. And I think Paul will probably admit that I don't treat him any different inside work. Everyone's the same.
And sometimes I actually wish he would. I would think our relationship would give me a up on some things, but it doesn't.
Well, because I've learned that.
And again, I respect it. I appreciate that. But just personally, it's like, come on, bro. My dad did your wedding. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's your sales pitch? I will never treat anyone different. Never.
This is true. This is true.
It's always the same.
This is true.
But that's going on. And that, as I was going to say, actually, that's for me personally. I'm proud because, I don't want to say father figure because I'll never be even close to your father. But I would say brothers.
Sure.
So what happened was when Paul came to me, it wasn't like he was in a bad shape in life. That's not what I'm saying. And I rescued him or anything like that. But it's been very prideful. I've been very proud of watching Paul grow from a porter to a salesperson to dealing with a couple of things personally. And even that he reached out to me when those personal things hit. It's been proud. And then watching the guy flourish and doing some other things just other than just the car business. It's very proud for me to witness that and still be part of it. And that's another reason why I really wanted you back, because even though we kept in touch very, very close, still that distance and not seeing each other each day was kind of weird. But so that's going pretty well.
Yeah. It's up and down, just like anything where you're just kicking it off. And
what's your aspirations for the future? And you and I have talked about your aspirations here, but what are your aspirations? Just period. What would you like to see happen in the next 5-10 years?
Well, honestly, my I have a nephew that is following in the family footsteps of trying to pursue his music, and he's 12, and he's really, really good, man. He's really, really good, and there's going to be a real focus here to try to see what we can put together for my nephew.
You got any clips of him?
Yeah, I mean, I got a few.
Yeah, you have to send it to us. We'll stick it on there.
Yeah. He's gonna go by. He's my nephew, my brother's son. He's Isaac the third, and we call him 3. So he'll be on the lookout for 3.
Yeah, keep an eye on. You'd be surprised how much talent comes out of St. Louis. There's a lot of
It's
talent.
a lot of talent, tons of talent,
Yeah,
for sure.
You know, St. Louis is very much an untapped resource from what I've seen.
I agree with
in
that.
many areas,
Very well said.
athletics and from
Very well said. Yeah.
Anything else you want to point out?
No, man. Just as always, thank you, bro. You know I love you. You know, it's
Feelings mutual.
Yeah. This is just another us sitting down having a conversation.
Yeah.
There'll be many more to come, I'm sure.
Well, the good thing is I know most of this already, so it's kind of I know I can walk in down a path and know where I go. But it's kind of like the Joe situation. Paul and I could probably bring up 3-4 hours worth of stuff that we've gotten that we kind of just scraped over the surface.
Yeah.
But obviously we don't have time for that. So appreciate you joining me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you watching. And as always, over at Fusz Ford, we can replace the car, not the customer. And I'll see you all next week.
Baby, I would like to get to know